and today we're focusing on the new changes that are coming to PTE Academic from August 7th, so in a couple of weeks. So it's an important session because two new speaking types are being introduced, okay? And several existing tasks will now be scored partly by humans, okay? Does anybody, are you guys aware of that at all? Have you come across the fact that there are changes coming? You can.
Yeah, I've just read.
Go on, Hoover.
Yeah, I mean, I've read it somewhere regarding the changes.
Okay, so I just want to also point out that, I really want this to be, I don't want it to be a boring lecture where I'm just talking the whole time. So if you ever have any questions, or if I ask you to participate, please participate and engage, and let's make it sort of friendly and a participative experience today. Okay, so I've actually asked both of you about the PTE. Okay, all right. So basically, there is one major change coming to the exam, or two major changes, in fact, and that is the addition of 2 speaking questions, okay? Which is basically what the whole workshop is going to be about today. One is called Summarize Group Discussion, and the other is called Respond to a Situation, okay? There are a couple of other changes coming to the exam, but really they don't affect you as a student in any way. As in, they do affect you, but that don't affect the way you prepare for the exam because it remains the same. And the differences are that they are going to start grading or marking 7, including the 2 new elements, the 2 new questions, 7 in total areas for content, okay, by a human examiner. So not your pronunciation, not your fluency, just the content of your answer, all right? And those, and that's only for speaking tasks, and that, sorry, I lied, it's not only speaking tasks, also write essay. But those new sections that will include the human marking as well as, so they still have the AI marking for pronunciation, etc. But just for the content, it'll be Summarize Group Discussion and Respond to a Situation, the 2 new ones. Describe Image, Retell Lecture, Summarize Written Text, Write Essay, and Summarize Spoken Text, okay? So the key thing is that fluency and pronunciation are still scored automatically by AI, but the content in these items is going to now also be reviewed by humans. And I think that a major reason why they're doing this is because many students were trying to sort of game the system, so to speak, by memorizing templates. Now, I believe that there is a place for templates at the beginning when you're preparing, and also to sort of learn some useful language and vocabulary, but it is not the best way to prepare for the exam, and PTE is making it clear that they don't want that. And if they can identify that students are using templates and just memorizing it, I believe you get 0, okay? So it means that you need to really develop other skills, and including, and most importantly, especially for the Summarized Group Discussion, note-taking skills, all right? So let me just share my screen with you and we'll get stuck into this. Okay. Can everybody see that? Yes, let me just scroll up. Okay. So, here we go. All right, so what is Summarize Group Discussion? Basically, it's actually a pretty long audio, okay? It can go up to 3 minutes, which is a significant, I think, a pretty significant amount of time. After the 3 minutes, it's not necessarily 3 minutes. I think generally they're about 2.5 to 3 minutes, but quite long. You have 10 seconds to think about what you're going to say and 2 minutes to actually respond. So you can see 10 seconds after listening for 3 minutes is not a very long period of time. And so it's very, very important that you take effective notes while you're listening to the audio, okay? That's what the main skill, I mean, obviously the speaking part is paramount, is the most important thing because that's what they mark you on. But the best way to prepare for summarized group discussion is to really work on your note taking, okay? And I'm going to show you soon how there are a couple of good ways to sort of have a template of how you might take those notes. I kind of have a preferred option myself, but you can use whatever you like. Okay, any questions yet at this stage, guys?
None so far.
Okay. Hoover, you're all good?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, let's move on. So I just want to point out that, so what's really important is that there's always 3 speakers, okay? I'm quite sure that they have different accents, or one is a female, one's a male, so it's quite clear, you're not going to get mixed up by who the speaker is. But it's very important that you can identify the different speakers and what their main points are, okay? So just like in other sections of the exam where, there's lots of information and you need to kind of give a sort of summary, what's essential is to identify the main ideas being shared, okay? And that's not always easy, especially if your English isn't at a very high level, but that's what they're testing for. That's what they want you to demonstrate, okay? So some useful language that we can use in this section is things like the speakers discussed, speaker 1 argued, in contrast, etc. And you're going to see that in a model answer a bit later. But I just want to now show you a template, which I think this is the one that I personally really like, okay? So you don't have to make a fancy table or anything, but you might just quickly draw, write speaker 1, speaker 2, speaker 3, and then main point and supporting ideas, or even just main point, okay? But it's really important to have a structure like that when you're taking notes for this element. And we're going to listen to a sample question in a moment, okay? So if you have pen and paper handy, or another document where you could sort of make up your own quick little note-taking template, because this is not going to be provided to you in the exam, you'll have to quickly make your own version on the writing pad that you're given. Okay, so it might be a good idea if you have that now to quickly do that. But I just want to show you that there's also a second template idea if this is more interesting to you. Okay, so you have the speakers on the top, and so it's a different way of doing it. Okay. Any questions so far? No? Okay.
So meaning here, sorry. So
Yeah,
meaning
yeah.
here, every speaker has her own point of view. It's not
Correct.
just generic that one speaker has the same point of view as 1 and 2 and 3.
No, that's exactly right.
Okay.
And you're going to see it in a moment. So you'll hear
Okay,
it,
sure.
not see it. That's the whole point. So you have to think about, what are they trying to assess here? Okay. And what they're trying to identify in students' English ability is, because this is, being able to understand a discussion between several people is really important in language learning and fluency in a language, right? Being able to recognize the points that people are making and the arguments that they provide to support their opinions, okay? And so it's quite different from all the other speaking tasks, okay? So yeah, the point is that every speaker will have their own opinion, Sometimes they're going to be contrasting. Maybe one speaker will share the same opinion as another speaker, but they're all going to have different ideas. That's the whole point, okay? So I think maybe we should just listen to one. I think rather than just talking about it, it might be best if we actually listen to an example, okay? Now, I've made it, for the sake of this, slightly shorter than a full one, but still pretty long, okay? So let me just get it. Now, hopefully you can hear this. Can everybody hear that?
No.
I
No,
can't hear anything. I cannot hear anything.
you can't.
Yes.
Okay, maybe this will work better. Okay.
I believe mobile phones are a
Could you hear that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right. So if you've got your notes, if you've got that template ready, get ready to take some notes and let's listen. Okay, here we go.
I believe mobile phones are a distraction. Students are constantly checking social media instead of listening. Even when they're used for learning, it's hard for teachers to monitor. I've seen students texting during lessons or watching unrelated videos under the desk.
I understand that, but I think they're a useful learning tool. Apps, timers, even calculators, they're all on the phone. Banning them is outdated. If students are guided properly, they can be used to enhance engagement.
I think it depends on the student's age. For high school students, I agree with John. They need more structure. But for college students, they should be trusted to manage themselves. They're adults, after all.
But even in college, phones can reduce concentration. You see students browsing online during lectures, scrolling through social media or shopping sites. It affects participation in the classroom environment.
That's true, but that's a self-discipline issue. We can't just ban everything. We should teach responsible use instead. Maybe a phone etiquette session could be included at the start of the term.
Maybe there's a middle ground. Allow phones, but only for certain activities. Or make it part of participation marks. That would motivate responsible usage.
That could work, but enforcement is tough. Teachers already have a lot to handle. Monitoring phone use adds to the burden.
Then maybe technology policies should be more flexible, not one size fits all. Different classes and age groups could have different rules.
Yes, especially now that digital learning is more common. Phones can be part of the learning ecosystem if used wisely.
Okay. So I think you would probably agree that that's quite a bit of content, right? A lot of different ideas there. How did you find that? Was that easy to follow?
Yes.
Yep.
Somehow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very easy. I
Okay.
think so.
Good. And so did you get some notes down?
Yes.
Okay, Huva, could you have a go and tell me some of the notes you took down, please?
Yeah. Well, for me, like the speaker once, he said that the mobile phones are distractions
Yep.
because most students are keep on checking on social media. Students are texting during lessons, browsing online and shopping sites. Speaker two are more of useful learning tool because they are like apps such as calculator that is very helpful for students.
Mm-hmm.
And then speaker three agreed that it depends on the age. Like for instance, high school can be more disturbed by social media, but for a college one, they have a bit of more control.
Okay, yeah, that was really good. So you've taken down notes for each speaker, and you can see how separating the ideas by speaker means that when you actually need to put this together as you've kind of automatically done, but that it makes it so much easier, right?
Yeah.
So
I
I don't
just-
know. Did you want to have a go at maybe answering that in like using those notes you just said, you kind of already did it, to be honest. But would you like to maybe have a go at how you might actually answer this? Trying to use the correct language and using all those notes that you wrote down and giving one full summary of the conversation, of the discussion. Do you want to have a go at that?
Yeah, I just have a question first, if that's
Yeah,
all right. If that's so, because based on the audio, like chronologically, like speaker one didn't like give his thoughts at once. Like there is what do you call it, overlapping. So in
Mhm.
terms of describing their conversation, should I just go summarizing speaker one, then go to
Yes.
speaker two? Okay.
Yeah. Look, sorry. There is no answer. There is no right or wrong answer. There's nothing that says you should only speak about speaker one and then only speak about speaker two. No. You can say, for example, that the first speaker started by introducing this point, and then the second speaker brought up that point, and then speaker one, offered that another opinion after. There's no reason why you have to do all about speaker one initially, all about speaker two second, and all about speaker three third. Absolutely not. It's just that it might be an easier way to do it. Again, I think what's most important is you finding a method that is easy for you to be able to replicate. Okay, so where you can take down the notes that you need and then be able to speak about that fluently. And if it's easier for you to speak about the first speaker and the second speaker and then go back to the first speaker for the second time they speak, that's fine. I happen to think it might be easier to just speak about speaker one, speaker two, speaker three, and then some kind of sentence that puts it all together at the end. But there's no reason why you have to do that. This is just some ideas to help you in this particular question. Does that answer your question, Hoover?
That makes sense.
Okay. What about you, Lisa Bell? Is that
Basically, I think the thing that you're talking about is you just want a gist of everything.
pretty much?
Yeah,
Yeah. So
because you want the exact thought of the topic that you're talking about.
correct. Yeah. So the whole point, and this is the same with any element in the PTE exam that requires you to provide a sort of a summary, right? Where you've listened or read and you need to provide a summary. Well, they're trying just to see that you can identify the main points and then put it together in a logically structured response.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So did you want to have a go, Hoover, at sort of, imagining this was excuse me.
Yeah. Sure.
Okay, go for it.
So the conversation started by having the speaker one mentioning that mobile phone has a negative impact in the society, and it causes distraction because, for instance, students keep on checking social media during class, texting during lessons, browsing online and shopping sites, scrolling social media, and it affects the entire classes. Speaker two is in contrary with speaker one, in which she's mentioning that social medias are very helpful tools. In fact, there are other tools like calculator that's very helpful for the class. And she disagreed that social media should be banned, but it has to be regulated. Like there should be some phone etiquette implemented in the class, and some technology policies should be flexible. Speaker three is a bit of balance because it had mentioned that social media uses depends on the age. Like for instance, high school students tend to use social medias um, not wisely. whereas like college students has more discipline in using that. And he did mention as well that we are now on a digital learning, so everyone could benefit out of it. So basically, those three speakers have different perspectives with using social medias.
Very good. Sorry, I had a bit of a coughing fit, but that was really good, Hoover. That was a really good first try. I think you certainly captured the main points of each speaker, and you put it together very well, I thought. Like anything, I think when you practice, you'll improve. But I thought that was a really good first go, and I think you really got the idea of what they're trying to assess in this question. Now we have a new attendee, Kamal. Is that right? Did I pronounce that correctly? Are you there, Kamal? Kamal? Not sure how to pronounce your name. Just let me know if you can hear me in the chat or unmuting yourself and telling me that you're here. Can you hear me? Okay, never mind. We'll continue. Okay, we have another person who's joined.
Hi, good evening.
Hi, welcome. What's your name?
My name is Mushfiq Rashid Bhuiya.
Okay, Mushfiq, welcome. Where are you joining us from?
Well, I'm currently joining you from Kuala Lumpur, but I live in Bangladesh.
Right. Okay. Nice. Well, thank you for joining. I might just ask you if it's okay to put yourself. Yeah, that's better, just because there was that background noise. But please unmute when you want to speak. All right, guys. Let's continue. So, for those of you who came late, I'll just bring you up to speed very quickly. So, this is all about the changes that are coming to the PT exam, specifically the two new sections, which are summarize group discussion and respond to a situation. We've gone through one practice question for the summarize group discussion, and we'll go through a second one. So actually, it's not terrible timing. We'll still get to go through another one altogether. But just quickly, for those who aren't here, the summarized group discussion can go for up to 3 minutes, the audio that you listen to, which is obviously quite a long time. And so a skill that's really important to work on for this section is note taking. And so I think that this is the ideal template to use, where you write down speaker 1, speaker 2, and speaker 3, and then you take down notes identifying the main points and their supporting ideas, because every summarized group discussion audio that you'll listen to will include 3 speakers. Okay, so there's quite a lot going on, and it's really important to have organized notes. All right, any questions?
Just a question regarding like in the actual exam, because I could not remember in terms of taking down notes. So would the testing center would be providing a pen and paper, or like in terms of notes?
Yeah,
keeping
good
notes?
question.
And
No, you get a digital whiteboard that you can use, I believe.
because I'm not used to writing in a paper anymore.
Yeah, yeah, not many people are. No, you get a digital whiteboard.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so yeah. Any other questions before we move on? Okay, so let's do another one. I've got a second one for us to listen to. Sorry, before we do that, here is a model response, okay? So this would be a very high level answer to this first question. And so for those of you who didn't hear the first audio, you get to hear the response, okay? So the speakers, and what I've done is I've put in bold some, I wouldn't call it generic language, but some good ways to perhaps start sentences when you're answering this this question, okay? Not to be necessarily repeated, but it's a sort of language that should be used, okay? The speakers engaged in a thoughtful discussion about the role of mobile phones in classrooms. And then, so that was, you can see, the first sentence is a general introduction to what the discussion was about. Speaker one maintained. A maintained is another way of saying had an opinion or argued, okay? Speaker one maintained a strong stance against their use, citing frequent distractions and the difficulty of monitoring students effectively. Now, this is really good language to be using also in your writing and or any extended response that you need to be providing with different opinions. In contrast, speaker two championed, okay? So this is not necessarily language you'll use all the time, but I'm trying to demonstrate that it's really good to use, as many different words, synonyms as you can. In contrast, speaker two championed mobile phones as valuable educational tools, emphasizing the importance of teaching students how to use them responsibly. Speaker three adopted a more nuanced perspective, meaning saw the nuanced means to see both sides, let's say, okay? If you're having an argument or a discussion with different opinions, someone with a nuanced perspective is able to see the good and the bad on both sides. So speaker three adopted a more nuanced perspective, suggesting that phone policies should vary by age group, with younger students requiring stricter controls, while older students could be trusted to self-regulate. Although there was no full agreement, all speakers acknowledged the complexities of balancing technological integration with classroom discipline, and several potential compromises such as structured usage of flexible policies were proposed. Okay, so the main point I want you to get from this is just a kind of good structure to work on. A short introduction at the start, and then using each speaker and what their main point was and their supporting arguments, and then a sort of conclusion at the end where you bring it all together. Okay, so let's now look at another example, okay? So guys, take your notes. Actually, for those of you who weren't here before, let me quickly show you the template. And if you happen to have a paper and pen or somewhere that you could make this template, I suggest you quickly, it doesn't have to look like this. It doesn't have to be a proper table, but just put speaker one, speaker two, speaker three. Even that's enough, okay? And then just write down the points for each one. So I'll just give you a second to do that. Sorry, guys, I got a bit of a cough. Okay, let's go for it. Okay, here we go. So try to take your notes on each speaker, okay?
Group projects are honestly just exhausting. Every time I've been in one, there's always someone who disappears halfway through or barely contributes. The rest of us end up scrambling to finish everything before the deadline. I've had to completely redo entire sections on my own the night before a submission because one person didn't do their part at all. It feels like no matter how hard you try, you're picking up someone else's slack. It's just not fair.
I understand where you're coming from, but I actually think group projects are really useful in the long run. Most jobs these days require teamwork, right? Learning how to navigate group dynamics, especially when people aren't pulling their weight, is a valuable experience. Sure, it's frustrating, but it reflects what real workplaces are like. You don't always get to choose your teammates, and learning to adapt is part of the process.
I see both sides. On the one hand, yes, group work can help develop soft skills like communication and collaboration, which are crucial for the future. But I also think grading is where things fall apart. If one person doesn't do much and still gets the same grade, that's completely unfair to the people who actually did the work. The grade often doesn't reflect individual effort, which can be really demotivating.
Exactly. I don't mind working with others, but the grading system needs to be changed. We should all be marked individually, even if it's a group project. If someone isn't contributing, they shouldn't benefit from the rest of us doing all the work. It just creates resentment, and it makes me dread these assignments.
But then you risk people focusing only on their own parts and ignoring the teamwork aspect. In some courses, like business or marketing, it's all about delivering something as a team. If we're all assessed individually, it might discourage people from really collaborating. Team success should still matter to some degree.
What if the grade was split? Like part of it based on the final product and part based on peer evaluations. That way, students could rate each other's contributions anonymously, and the teacher would get a clearer picture of who actually did what.
I'd be okay with that, as long as the peer evaluations are taken seriously. Maybe the teacher could even adjust the weighting if they notice something's off. At least then, people would feel some pressure to do their part.
Another idea might be to give the group a shared goal, but also ask each student to submit a short reflection on what they did. It wouldn't take long, and it helps the tutor see who was actually involved.
I like that. It adds some accountability without turning it into a stressful process. If we can balance teamwork with fair grading, I think group projects could be a lot more effective and less frustrating.
All right, guys, it was a longer one, okay, and closer to the length that will actually be on the exam. So how did you guys go taking notes for that one? Can everybody hear me?
Yes. Hello.
Hi, Moshe. Yeah.
I find out group discussion. I mean group project in a university. The first speaker. I'm sorry, I couldn't write down the thing, but
Okay.
I mean, again, first speaker talk about the grading system, and the second speaker talk about the group project is very much needed in the right now in the current situation in the office, because mostly they want the teamwork. That's it that I can remember.
That's okay. Yes, and that's the point, is that it's so long that it's very difficult to obviously do it without taking notes. So actually, that's a great example. Thank you, Mushfiq. Even though you kept some important points, you can see how it's very difficult unless you really get down some good notes to put together a good summary at the end.
Well, no, it's not that much difficult. I have to. My young kid is, troubling, so that's why I couldn't write out properly. But
I understand. It's not you did a good job. What I'm saying is it's very important to be able to write down the notes. That's my point. So
yeah. Thank you.
That's okay. Thank you. All right. Right, guys. We might move on to the next section. Respond to a situation, because we don't have a huge amount of time left. But I hope that you got some idea of what summarized group discussion is all about, what they are looking for, and how the best way for you to go about preparing and answering this in an exam. Okay, so remember, obviously speaking in a structured, fluent way is the most important. But in order to do that, it's really, really important to get your note taking on point, to get it to a really good level. And that includes, for this section, that means having a really good template that you like, having some key linking language that you can use to link the different speakers in your response, okay? And being able to identify those main points and the supporting ideas. Okay, so Huvi did a great job there, and I'm sure you, the rest of you took down some good notes too. All right, so let's have a quick look. I won't read this out. I'll just let you have a quick look at the model response for the second one. We'll just read a little bit, and so you can get the same idea of how you should be responding to these, okay? The speakers discuss the pros and cons of group projects at university, okay? Again, an introductory sentence where you're just telling people who have not listened. I mean, that's the way you should be writing things like this and speaking about things like this is as if the person you're speaking to or writing to has not heard what you've listened to. Okay, that's how you want to explain it. So the speakers discussed the pros and cons of group projects at university. Speaker 1 described repeated negative experiences where group members, etc. Okay, Speaker 2 acknowledged these frustrations. Speaker 3, and then at the end, we've got a bit of a conclusion when we bring it all together. And we have words like overall. Okay, it's a good word to use when we're talking about our conclusion at the end of a response like this. All right, any questions, guys, about summarized discussion before we move on to respond to a situation?
Josh,
Yes.
I want to ask you, like, the way you show the template,
Mhm.
if we speak like summarize this one group discussion, we have to speak out, right?
Could you repeat that again?
I mean, summarize group discussion that this is in a speaking section, right?
Correct.
Okay. If we follow this way, how much we'll get the mark?
You mean, okay, so it's out of 6, you get, for the content, you get marked out of 6. I can't tell you exactly what mark you get. You can't be, there is no template for this, okay? This is not, you can't memorize templates. Every single discussion is going to be on a different topic, okay? What I'm saying is that to get the best marks that you can get, you need to practice your note taking and have a good template to take your notes, okay? I can't tell you what marks you'll get. I mean, sure, if your structure is good, your language is perfect, you use a varied vocabulary and you use linking language, then you'll get full marks. But I don't believe that anybody can tell you will get exactly these marks if you do exactly this. If they say that, they're lying to you, okay?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying
Okay,
that,
sorry.
like, first, the way here the brief is there, the first speaker, then second speaker, then third speaker,
Yeah.
what they are saying, and then overall, what I understand that I will tell there. So
Yeah.
this way, this way I can get a good mark.
Of course, yes. Okay. Sorry, you weren't here when I spoke with Hoover asked a similar question. And my answer is, of course, there is no one way to answer it. Okay, absolutely not. You can answer it as long as you can summarize the discussion and talk about each speaker and their points and their supporting arguments. You can structure it however you like. Okay. This is a suggested way, which I think is a really good way to make sure that you include the main points and the supporting arguments in a structured way. And that's why I encourage you to do it in this way, but you don't have to do it in this way. Having said that, yes, if you follow this structure and you identify all the main points and you provide supporting evidence and you use, like I said, you use that linking language and your grammar is correct, then yes, absolutely, you can get very good marks for this section. Does that answer?
Thank you, Josh.
You're welcome, Mushfiq. All right, guys, let's move on to respond to a situation. So it's very different. It's quite unique, actually, respond to a situation. I got to admit, I kind of like it. I think it's a good way of testing someone's English. And what makes it very different from the other speaking sections is you need to use first person. Do you all understand what that means?
Yeah.
Good. So you listen, and this one it's It's both, you can listen to an audio file, but also it's written, the situation. So basically you're put in a situation. And so in my opinion, it's kind of going to be almost natural to answer this, okay? So you're not summarizing, okay? Which is quite different from the other speaking sections and describe image and all of that, where they're testing how you comprehend what you read or saw or listened to and then summarizing it. Now, this is quite different. You're given a situation and you have to sort of act out, so to speak, or do a role play as if you're in that situation. Does that make sense, guys?
Yes, it does.
Okay, cool. So what's really important in this one, okay, is to be able to identify the context that you're in. So one context, one situation might be where they're asking you to speak to a friend of yours, okay? Now, obviously in that situation, you're going to be using a casual tone, an informal or friendly tone, right? If you're speaking to your university lecturer, there's a very important part that I've neglected that I forgot to tell you, and I apologize. Both of these are always in a university situation, okay? Okay, that's important, and I should have told you that, and I apologize. Both the summarized group discussion and the respond to a situation will always be a university context, okay? So I assume all of you have studied or you're trying to study, so you're familiar with that environment, okay? So if the situation is, you know, you need to ask your university lecturer for an extension, obviously you're going to speak very differently to your university lecturer than you would your friend, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So that's what's really important, or one of the important things about this section is you need to be able to identify the sort of language and tone. Another way to say this is register, that you should be using in that situation. And that's going to be really important. So even if your grammar's perfect and you're using long vocabulary, but you speak in the wrong tone, like if it says speak, you know, you need help from a friend for an assignment, right? But then you speak really politely, like, oh, excuse me, sir, I would really like your assistance. That's not the right way to speak in that context, okay? So it's very important that you can identify the correct tone for the particular context or situation that is given to you, all right? So it's just some useful thinking language that you might use depending, again, on the situation. Sorry to bother you, but is that, guys, is that formal or informal?
Formal.
Formal, good. What about this one? Is that formal or informal?
Formal.
Well, I think it could be both.
Okay.
I think it could be both. Definitely, you might use this to a friend. Do you think you could, you know, let's say you call up your friend and the situation they've given you is you're having difficulty with an assignment. You know you have a friend who's already finished it. You need to ask them for their help. Well, you call up your friend. Do you think you could help me with this assignment? Does that sound really formal?
No.
No, very casual.
No.
But it also could be used formally, okay? So, yeah, the point is, and I've heard you all speak, you've all got a good English. I think this is something this is a section you guys will all do well on. But these are the sorts of things you need to think about for this section, okay? Okay, so before we practice, because we're really running out of time, but we will quickly go through at least one question. We need to think about the tone and register, as I said. Is it formal, is it informal, or is it assertive? Okay, you might be given a situation where you need to assert yourself. So let's say you've booked a room in the library for your group assignment and you get there at the time you've booked and there's another group in there. how do you deal with that situation? Well, you need to be assertive. You need to go up to that group of people and say, you need to be polite probably, but also assertive. Excuse me, I've booked this room for this time, as an example, okay? You need to identify, who am I speaking to? A professor, a friend, a supervisor, etc. Okay? What kind of language will sound natural and appropriate? And this is key, okay? Like I said, it's all about the context. It should be natural. You should be able to sort of instantly say, okay, this is the really, it shouldn't be an intellectual process. It should come quite natural, the tone in which you would be speaking, okay? Any questions about this so far?
None. No.
No. Okay. All right, guys. We'll just go through a couple. I have like 5 here, but we'll just go through a couple because we've sort of run out of time. But before I do that, before we go into actually, I'll ask a couple of you to try and do a practice prompt. Let's just identify which tone would be best for these 2 first practice prompts. So maybe Hoover, if you don't mind, could you just read this out and tell me the tone you think would be best, and also, you know, maybe one phrase that might be good to include in this sort of prompt.
Yeah, so ask a friend to fix your broken laptop the night before an assignment is due. I believe like it's informal, given
Good.
the relationship with a friend.
And just to stop you quickly, are you making a suggestion? Are you being assertive? Are you making a request? You know, what sort of thing are you tasked with doing?
Or how are you going to say it?
Well, that's the question.
Mhm.
I
That's right.
believe, given the timeline, the urgency of the matter, you have to be assertive in that case.
And that's a really good point, actually. I really like that idea. Yeah, so you want to be really nice because obviously you need their help, but also kind of assertive because you need it done pretty soon. So how might you, what might be a good opening phrase to use here? And there's no, you're not being judged, just off the top of your head. What do you think might be a good opening phrase you could use? Like, you could just make up a name for your friend.
Hey Louis, is there a possibility?
Yeah, good. Is there a possibility, you know, you can help fix my laptop or something like that, right? Okay.
Are there any
Sorry?
chance? Something. Is there any chance? For
Very
my
good.
laptop?
Is there any chance? That's really good. I like that a lot. Yeah, that's it. You got the right idea. That's a really good way to start. Okay, for an informal one, obviously.
Yeah.
Okay. Second one, maybe Mushfiq, could you have a go at that one?
Yes. Ask another group to vacate your reserved library room. Okay.
Okay, so what sort of tone are we using in this one?
Sorry, can't.
Do you need to be very sort of polite? And are you making a request, or are you making an assertion, or are you apologizing?
A request.
A request, yeah, that's true. You are asking them, but what sort of request? Let's say, is it a polite request? Is it a request because you need help? Or tell me a bit more about the context.
Politely. That should be polite.
It should be polite, but also there's a key word I want you to sort of to use that you haven't used yet. Anybody can help, Mushfiq? What's the key tone in this practice prompt?
Probably he can say, excuse me,
Yeah, that would definitely be a good phrase to begin with. I agree, but I'm looking for a word to describe this prompt that hasn't been used yet. If you got to a library room that you had booked in advance and somebody's there at the time that you booked it, what sort of tone would you be using?
Can it be an assertive thing
Thank you.
that,
That's right.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So Lisabel, maybe have a quick go. How would you respond to that? What would you say in that situation?
Excuse me, I think this library is booked for me right now. I think you have to vacate it
Okay, good.
because I'll be using it, right? Something
Yeah.
like that.
Okay. So that's a good go. Anybody else? Yeah, I think you want to be polite but assertive. So, excuse me, but I think I've booked this room for this time. Maybe you lost track of time or something, but I have my group members coming. Could you please leave or something like that? Okay. Maybe let's have a go. Hoover, maybe you'd like to have a go at this one to finish off, guys. And then we'll have a look at a couple of sample responses and then something else. But let's do maybe one more.
So ask your professor for access to missed lecture slides.
Yeah.
It has to be formal.
Yep.
And
Why don't you just have a go at answering it? Like, imagine you're in this situation, and you need to speak to your lecturer, and because you missed something, you missed it for some reason, and you want the slides. How would you speak to your lecturer about that? Your professor, sorry.
Hi, professor. Can I please have access to those missed lecture slides?
Yeah, try to give a little bit more information. So you might say why, or maybe not just one sentence, I guess what I'm getting at. Maybe try to provide a slightly more information.
Good morning, Professor. I miss your class. I'm requesting you to, if possible, give. I missed your class. So, and then I missed your class in the lecture slide. I'm requesting you to give me if possible, to give me the lecture slide.
Yeah, I think the second way you said it would be better than the first. You said I'm requesting to, and that sounds much more like written English to me. Okay, whereas this is a situation in which you should be speaking. So I like the second one. We said, would it be possible? That is a more, even though it's still polite, it's very polite. It's usually spoken language in English is a bit more casual than written language. Okay, written English. And so you're still being polite, but I'm requesting doesn't really sound right in spoken English. That's kind of just for written English. Okay, so I like the second way you said it. Excuse me, professor, I missed your class this morning, or I missed your class last week. Could I possibly get the lecture slides that I missed, or could I possibly get access to the lecture? Something like that. Yeah?
Yeah.
All right. Guys, any questions about respond to a situation? Now, of course, there are other situations and context that could arise, but remember that it's always in a university context, and it always has to be first person. Any questions there?
Yeah, all good, Josh. But just a question, like in general, when delivering your your sentences or your statements, what would you suggest in terms of the pacing? Because for myself, admittedly, I tend to talk fast. So like in terms of the degrading, how is it gonna work?
That's a very good question. I see no problem. Actually, I think the way you speak, Hoover, sounds very fluent. So I'm not concerned at all about your pace. There are some students I've heard who they speak quickly, but they tend to swallow parts of words, and not necessarily in a sort of native sounding way. And that could be detrimental because the AI is not going to pick it up. But I I don't hear that at all in the way you speak over it. Your fluency and your pace is actually really good. I have no issues with the way you speak. I think what I'm trying to say is I don't think you need to try and slow down your speech. I think it's good. I think it sounds natural.
All right. Thanks, Josh.
Yeah, no worries. Okay, so let's just have a quick look at a couple of responses. Okay, so that's what I was kind of encouraging you, because it's not really looking for just I know that the prompts are relatively short, and you don't have to give a really long response like the summarized group discussion, but you do, you want it to be natural. So you want it to, if you're speaking to your friend, you probably would give a bit more background information, right? Hi, it's me. My laptop crashed and I got a big assignment due tomorrow. I know you're great with tech. Could you take a quick look tonight? I'd really appreciate it. Let me know if you're around. Something like that, okay? So just, I guess what I'm saying is you do want to kind of, and you can make it up, but try to make it, they're really trying to test your ability to speak in a natural way in a different context. So, and that means, embellishing or making up a bit of a story to go with it, right? So, hi, excuse me, I booked this study room for 3:00 and my group is about to arrive. We really need the space to work on a presentation. I'm sorry to interrupt, but would you mind moving so that we can start our session? So if you still need a room, I think there might be some available upstairs. Thanks so much. I really appreciate it. Okay, so it's being very polite. You're making a request, but also assertive, okay? Would you mind moving? Okay, that's kind of assertive, right? But anyway, the point is, you could just say, hi, I booked this room for 3:00 and my group is about to arrive, move. That wouldn't, that's kind of answering that prompt, but not in a high level, not at a high level. A high level would show that you can imagine this context, imagine this situation, and kind of put yourself in there and give a bit of a backstory or give information that will just elevate your response to a higher level. Does that make sense, guys?
Yep.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, we've gone a little bit over time, but that's okay. I really, really hope that was useful for you guys. So just some final tips, especially for the summarized group discussion. Clear structure is really important. And for that, for respond to a situation, natural tone, okay? Think about who you're speaking to. And then, again, for the summarized group discussion, that's the SGD. Group those key ideas and contrast the opinions, okay? And I think the real key about these two new sections, which is, in my opinion, true of the whole exam, but most definitely these two, and I know for a fact that that's why they've brought them out. That's why they've created these two new sections, is they don't want students memorizing templates, okay? So it's really important that you learn to work on your note-taking and your speaking and not just memorizing templates. All right, guys, any final questions before we wrap things up?
Josh, this is not about the class. Like I'm enrolling in this class it's a free class. But if I wanted to do class with you people, how can I? What is the procedure?
Yes, thank you for asking. As I was just about to get to that at the end. So look, if you found this workshop helpful, I want you to think about how much progress you can make with full support of a teacher, because that's, I think, what really makes us different. Not what I think, what I know really makes e-English different is that we have real teachers who provide you feedback throughout your lessons. So our courses are designed to help you improve faster with expert feedback from real teachers, as I said. So what you need to do is visiteenglish.com.au, okay? And you'll see that there are different course options for different levels, and you can join the program that's right for you. And perhaps if you'd like more specific information, Hannah, maybe Do you have Mushfiq's contact details, and you could send something to him?
Yes, if like currently now we have 40% discount if you enroll any course in the as the English. So now like we have 3 courses, the A2, B1 and B2. So it depends the level you are. So you can go our website and then you just choose the course you want, and then I can send you the code after you enroll the course, so you automatically to discount got the 40% discount.
Yeah, so that's for any of you. If you want to go to the
Okay, thank you. I'll visit the website and I'll do myself. No problem.
okay, great.
Yeah, I
But
can
Hannah,
send you the email.
yeah, I think maybe just send out the email to everyone here, yeah. Any final questions before we wrap up today? No.
None
I
so
don't
far.
have.
Okay, thank you, Hoover.
Thank you very much for the class.
You're welcome,
Yeah.
Mushfiq. Thank you for coming.
I just
Hoover,
completed my PT class, like a PT workshop in Bangladesh
Yeah.
online.
yeah,
When we are finishing the day our workshop was finished, that day before 2 days, I mean 10th July,
yeah,
this two, this summarize group discussion and respond to a situation, these two maybe added.
right.
So we are basically were very much we got afraid that there may, because there's a also there's some changes in the questions also.
Yeah,
But yesterday I had a free class also with my previous team,
mhm.
and today, so it makes me feel not to worry about it, just to practice, and inshallah we'll make it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. It really from the student perspective, the only changes are these 2 new questions in terms of your preparation.